G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well out there. Another week has gone by, plenty to talk about as always. We continue to form this sort of bottoming pattern with Bitcoin. The big question, of course, is have we actually hit the bottom yet, or are we just going to go sideways for 6 months? And they're fair questions, so let's see if we can work some stuff out. But first, we will duck into some news pieces, I think, this week. If you've been in the space for a little while and you've been stacking sats, or you've been in crypto in general, it's been a pretty crazy time. And I think that this meme sort of sums things up about perfectly. From the wifey's, babe, please pay attention to me. It's been weeks. And then old mate, stoic Bitcoiner here. How the fuck does it keep getting worse? It's a beautiful thing. So into the news here, China, we've known about this digital yuan for a long time, but we've had some articles released in the last week discussing how the digital yuan can be programmed to have expiry dates. So that means, let's say you have X amount of money or X amount of money as digital yuan. The government are able to program that it will just vanish or become unspendable after a certain duration. So that could be a year, 5 years, 1 month, 1 week. I mean, we just don't know. And that's part of the scary factor with CBDCs. And no one is thinking about the scary proposition that is CBDCs. It's certain, it's almost 100% given that the power that is provided with CBDCs will be abused by politicians. It's literally inevitable. And so you've got to either try to protect yourself, because this is coming now. We can't fight against it. There's no point pretending like cash is going to be around. It's just an unstoppable force that's happening around the world. You've got to try to protect your assets. So if you are forced in the end to use some sort of CBDC, you've got to have the smallest, minutest amount of daily expenditure available on there. And everything else needs to be stored in a digitally native secure network that can't be hacked and debased and is permissionless. And you know what that is. I'm not going to tell you again. We also had this week a little bit of stuff from the homeland, Australia, the RBA. They released a large document, as you can see on the top right here above me. This is a full-on long piece regarding stablecoins. And they're taking, I don't know who's coming up with this stuff in the RBA, but obviously someone's trying to do the research. They've basically taken the stablecoin reserves here at face value. Now, that's probably correct. Tether has no Big Four audits done on its assets. Let me just explain quickly how a stablecoin works, or let's just explain how Tether works. It's the longest, it's been there the most, it is the most successful by a mile. You are an exchange or someone wanting a large, let's just say 1 million Tether. When you send the money to Tether, they give you 1 million Tether. In the same process, they buy $1 million worth of some sort of backing for their treasury. And you can see here that makes up, basically the majority of the percentage of Tether is made up of US Treasury bills. They've got reserve repo, they've got deposits, they've got money market funds, and they've got some other investments. Obviously, we don't really know too much about the other investments, but that's the process. So it's not just when you read articles that, Tether or stablecoins are just producing $80 billion worth of new Tether. That's actually money that's being sent in and backed. It's backed because it needs to be backed to avoid a bank run. So let's say we have, action happen in the market. People liquidate their position and go to a stablecoin. They don't go to cash. They don't go to the US dollar. They don't go to the Aussie dollar. They don't go to any idiotic currency in the fiat system because it's too slow. It doesn't function correctly. They go to a stablecoin like Tether. So these folks need to have the cash in hand. And thus far, The only one that's gone down is Luna, and that was just an absolute Ponzi and a algorithmic stablecoin with no backing. Or it was backed with a volatile asset mainly. Tether thus far has fought its way through the FUD, has survived. Will it survive over time? I just don't know. And I don't think, I think the stablest coin in the end will be Bitcoin, the only stable coin that's worth holding. But that's probably a long way off. So the moral of this story is that it's very interesting that the RBA are discussing this. They know what's coming. And I think what's coming, just to sort of throw this cat amongst your pigeons, is the US are going to push for a worldwide USD stablecoin, as in a CBDC. They're going to have complete control. They need to try to push that to keep control of the world. But I just don't think it's going to happen. We'll see. Time will tell. I know that I, however, would want something that isn't controlled in a centralized manner, like a government or a Fed. I don't know. What could that be? So I saw this thread over the last, I don't know. It's obviously been produced on the 2nd of December, but I saw it come up in my feed, and I thought it was actually pretty classic and a really good layout of what's happened over this last period of time. And I'm going to go through it blow by blow because it really does show what's been going on. And yeah, let's do it. Let's give them a like here. That's only fair. Number 1, boomers buy GBTC in their 401ks. Rolling GBTC balloons in popularity. Market rallies from stimmies and halving. GBTC goes discount. Seasoning GBTC is trapped and underwater. Lending desks and funds don't shrink or cut losses and push out the risk curve, some to Luna. Luna grows massively and raises big round, begins to diversify treasury. Buys a yard of Bitcoin with UST from Genesis. Genesis pukes UST and knocks off peg. Funds and desks puke and bankrun UST. Luna dies. 3AC dies. Funds begin to die, drag down entire market. All duration bets sour and die. Lending desks with exposure to duration mismatch fall down. Funds get all borrow yanked and credit seizes. All lending desks de-risk and fail or shrink. Alameda has external borrow called. Market contracts further on liquidation crisis. Alameda Financials partial. Financials leaked CoinDesk, probably from angry now unemployed lender employee. CZ says selling all FTT and cutting exposure. FTT falls. Sol falls. SRM falls. Alameda massively underwater as collateral worthless with no liquidity account. No borrow available for temp liquidity and balance sheet shrunk. Because lenders already are all dead and yanked borrowing capacity. No liquidity causes customer pool of capital to be at risk. Bank run on FTX, FTX dead. Margaritaville at risk. Movie rights for sale. So there you go. A nice little wrap up of the last sort of six-ish months. Bit longer it turns out. But yeah, that's pretty much how it's gone. And through all of that, Bitcoin has not missed a beat. It has continued to function perfectly with all of this chaos around these, hedge funds, exchanges, banks, everything. Just all sorts of centralized old school systems and functionality that we have in the old system it's failing. Bitcoin's just ticking on beautifully. Bitcoin hasn't missed a beat. I need to stress that over and over and over again. Bitcoin hasn't missed a beat. And in that big long list, we saw a huge amount of businesses being destroyed, capital being destroyed, all sorts of things being destroyed. But really, as Anil here says, Bitcoin is creative destruction. The cycle of entrepreneurs out-innovating and out-obsoleting incumbents under a free market. And that's exactly what we've just had. We've had the ultimate display of free market activity with the zero intervention. And, obviously some people lost money who were too trusting in centralized parties. But at the end of the day, this is how you get a better market, you get a better industry because you wash out these bad actors people pick up the assets and they make them productive again. And this is what it all should be about. The miners are now having a bad time, which we knew because we've been following the hash rate, which has been going up parabolically, and they are now selling. So you can see in the red here, right in our current time frame, this is the biggest miner net position change ever. So they're basically selling everything they buy, everything they earn. They are just absolutely dumping all their Bitcoin, which makes sense because they're under stress. A lot of their machines are producing under cost basis. So yeah, it's a tough time, and this is the standard bottoming part of the timing market cycle of Bitcoin. It's just, this happens every time. Miners have taken out too much leverage in bull times. They realize in the end that there's almost no point having high cost electricity factories or outfits. It just doesn't function in bad times, and we're in a bad time. They're selling, and it's putting a little bit of pressure on obviously the price. But interestingly enough, the price hasn't really gone down that much considering all of this action. We've had FTX go under, liquidate all their stuff. We've had these miners selling, like going crazy. It's hard to argue that we haven't found a floor, I think. So just to show you the public mining sector here are the prices. And there's a lot of them, of course. These guys have all raised huge money. They all own a hell of a lot. And they're down huge over, I think this is only over the last sort of couple of days, but their price over the last year, of course, it's like an beta play on Bitcoin itself. These are more volatile in their gains and losses than Bitcoin itself. So, you know, they're undervalued right now, and you'd want to really pick and choose if you've got to pick and choose to invest in these in your stock account. But some of them have got a lot of great things going, and Riot probably, you know, is the leader in all of this. They're moving along pretty nicely. So you can see here from Riot, this is from their monthly, I think it might be their quarterly report. They have had a pretty good period of time in the end. They have produced a record 521 Bitcoins and achieved a new all-time high hash rate capacity in November. So this is their monthly report. I should just follow up on that now. And that's a lot when you think about it. So let's have a look a little bit further on here. Riot produced 512 Bitcoin, an increase approximately of 12% compared to the previous November, which is good. Riot held approximately 6,800 Bitcoin. So they've still got 6,800 Bitcoin on their books, which is great. Riot sold 450, generating net proceeds of approximately 8.1 million. So they sold nearly everything that they mined, kind of, which is interesting. Riot has deployed a fleet of 72,428 miners. It is unbelievable. That is so huge, the operation. And so these are big companies, and I keep stressing this because I don't think anyone really understands the size of this industry and how big these public companies are. They are enormous, and they're producing an enormous amount of revenue. And when the price picks back up and we kick back through 20 and 30 and 40 and a new all-time high, as we hopefully see that sometime in 24, I mean, these businesses are going to be absolute golden gems, and they're going to produce a lot of revenue, and they're going to be a bedrock part of the industry. So obviously the miners help the process. They allocate the transactions to the block to be verified and then to settle. This from Pierre. Pierre now works at Riot, mind you, but which I think is good. He's a really important analyst in the space and has been around forever. And I guess now he's getting a really deep look into the biggest player in the mining space, which is excellent. And he can then share what he finds, which is why I'm sharing it with you, because he's certainly worth a follow. he's a very respectable individual, very smart man. But he's basically showing here that 42 trillion worth of Bitcoin has settled on the Bitcoin network over the past 12 months. Now that is a lot of cash. I don't care who you are, but that is a lot of transactional activity, and that dwarfs some of the stuff that we have in the legacy world, to be honest with you. So, I mean, that's hugely bullish, and obviously it trends with price, that you can see a sort of similar-ish type movement with price, but we forget how valuable this is to emerging markets. Bitcoin is used constantly in emerging markets. And just this week, there was a big conference in Africa, and they're flying. People need it there because they have dictators who are trying to stop them from getting their own money out of the bank. They can't take out more than like $15 it equates to at any moment in time. So they need Bitcoin. They need to be able to transact on phones, and they need to be able to do peer-to-peer. And that's what Bitcoin is all about. It's about peer-to-peer transactions because you don't need a middleman. So Willy Woo, of course, is continuing to put out his more of his charting. And you can see here, this is another nice chart. We've got the CVDD floor in purple. We've got the balance price in green. It's sort of looking back at history, you can see similar type of trends emerging. We haven't really dipped under this yet, and I've got a pretty good feeling that we're going to need to go under the green line. Now, that would be somewhere under 15k. Whether the green line can meet the price or whether we don't go under, no one really knows, of course. And as I've said, for me, I'm happy stacking anything under 20, anything stacking here at 17. Fantastic. I'm enjoying every moment, every day. But I'm just trying to get this message across to folks who are jaded by the downwards market. It is jading, I understand. But now is the time to be buying. Now is the time to be buying, because every person you know is going to be talking to you about this when this is 50 grand again. And that's not the time to buy, it turns out. So follow the trends, follow the rhythm of the market, buy when there's blood in the streets. So talking about the rhythm of the market, this is a really clear, beautiful chart that I think will give you even a better indication of why we're sort of situated in the right timing band to find the value zone or the best time to buy. Basically, these epochs are, as you can see in the key here, define the cycles predetermined by the halving. So the halving basically starts there at block 0, and this is denominated in days, pardon me. So day 0 of each new halving cycle. So we've got the 2009 to 12, we've got 12 to 16, 16 to 20, and 20 to 24, which is the one we're in currently, which is in purple. And we're bang in the middle of historical buys. We're tapping on the spot. This is the spot. So don't get too cute. Don't think you can. Don't listen to all of the crap on the internet saying that it's going to go to 8. It's going to go to 3 grand. It's not going to go to 3 grand. It's not going to go to 8. It's not going to go to 10. There's too many buyers here, and we can tell by what's happened over the last few weeks, last couple of months even. There is a floor forming of buyers of last resort, and they will hold the line, and then we build off of that. So, we've got to be getting very, very close. Really great news is that Bitcoin balances with 1 or more Bitcoin is continuing to grow, and it is growing at a really great pace. You can see here, this is a cohort of people that we want to be buying Bitcoin. They have at least enough money to buy 1, and the more folks that we have in this cohort, the better the distribution. And of course, as you can see, the distribution is very fair and it is working perfectly. As time progresses, it distributes further and further and further around to everyone in the world, which is awesome. As we move through this epoch or this halving cycle into 2024, when the halving will actually occur, there is a little bit of different dynamics playing out here, which is obviously going to impact the price. So the rational root, as always, produces these great charts. I just love them. What's happening here is we're having, obviously as time goes on, folks realize a little bit more about what they hold, and supply gets more illiquid over time. Now, by the sort of way we're headed, you can see here in pink, we are going to have a very short amount of available supply. So I guess what I'm trying to say is when we do eventually come around to bullish phases or FOMO phases again, they'll come, don't worry, they'll be there. There's going to be no supply, and it's going to exaggerate these parts of the cycle that we've had in the past. So these up days are going to be enormous, and they're going to be scary. And people are going to be desperate to buy your Bitcoin that you bought at these prices. So strap in, enjoy the ride, be patient, and make sure that you're going to hold these bad boys for a long duration, because they are going to go up, and they are going to go up big. Stock Money Lizards here does a good job, I think, portraying information in a chart form. He makes things very simple. It's just nice to look at. These Heikin-Ashi candles here, it's just a different, it uses a different way of calculating the candlestick itself per day. So, or in this case per month. Basically it looks at averages and means, and rather than just the open, close, highest and lowest point of the day, which is what a usual chart candle would do. These just show things a little bit differently, and you can start to determine where things are going to turn, maybe a little bit better. Now, whether we're in, this is just another thing. It's just screaming that we're near the bottom. I mean, I don't even have to talk about this. You can look at it and deduce your own outcome. It's clear that we're getting close. How much pain can people endure? I don't know. But time will tell, and I'm willing to bet that the hodlers are buying hard, and the floor is being set. This is a really interesting chart here by TechDev, and it's actually really worth considering. It's a part of what we talk about each week, and basically it shows the DXY liquidity index. So. And it's overlapping here with Bitcoin. You can see here basically there is a little bit of a correlation when you sort of throw it around like this. There is a common thread with liquidity, as in easy money and Bitcoin going up. That's what it was designed for. So there's no real surprise there, I guess. But there are some folks in the space who are saying, listen, sit tight, start accumulating, but we're only going to go up when the Fed starts to ease policy again. And that could be the case. So, how much pain does the world have to endure before they change courses? I don't know. How high do rates have to go before there's too much pain in the world? I don't know. But there is a moment in time where that actually is going to be occurring. And whether they can fight inflation and, keep things propped up, I just don't know. But I'm getting prepared for the day that they do switch course on policy, and the mountain of money and the free money that they're going to have to give out to people is going to be something else, because people are going to be really struggling. So really nice chart here by TechDev. Clever, very clever. Very simple way of looking at this. And I know I've sent this around in the past, but it's a very great thing to look at. It's showing you the information. We are on track. Everything is in place. Bitcoin is doing its thing. It is the time to build a position. Increase your stack. Build for your kids. Do all those right things. This is the time. Look at the chart. Pause the video. Look at it. And you tell me what you think is going to happen over the next few years. You just tell me. You just tell me. And this is why. Because look at the ownership of Bitcoin. Let's just say Bitcoin. Although this is cryptocurrency, let's just say Bitcoin, because that's the big daddy. That's the only thing that really matters. This is not some Silicon Valley stock. This is not some mining company in Australia. This is not some REIT. This is not BlackRock. This is much, much bigger than this. And they're bigger than this. This touches every person on the planet. They all get value from the Bitcoin network. Every person does. Look at the growth here across the countries. It is being used. It's just unbelievable. It's being used by literally the entire world. There is nowhere, maybe North Korea you can't get it done. You probably can, but I just don't know because no one knows what's going on in North Korea. But it literally is accessible to every person on the planet who has the internet. Elon's putting up Starlink everywhere around the world. Every person will have the internet in a very short space of time. There's not ever going to be an issue ever again. There will be no wires. It'll all be Starlink eventually, or something similar. So, I mean, how can you not be completely in on this concept? This is the base money of the internet. This is how the internet's going to run, on Bitcoin. It's just so, it's ridiculous. I struggle with it because folks can't wrap their head around it. They don't want to wrap their head around it. And it's very frustrating to me because smart people, I know a lot of smart people, they refuse to look at it. They refuse to do the work. They just don't do the work. They can't believe in their mind that this can take over. And in the end, they only got to get Bitcoin at the price that they deserve. And you can only lead a horse to water. You cannot make it drink. Obviously, this is from Anil as well. Anil said so on Twitter. Make sure you follow him. Bitcoin, this sums up Bitcoin so well. And it explains the craziness that we've just gone through. Anti-fragility. Things that actively gain from volatility and unpredictability by using rapid feedback loops to evolve. This is the whole thing about Bitcoin. It is constantly growing. Forget about the price. The price doesn't matter. It's about its growth. And it's just growing each and every day. And it is just superb. I'm going to leave you with a couple of videos today, back to back. First, a little wrap up from the African conference that I touched on earlier. It was a big one, and things are moving beautifully there. And also from Jeff Booth. The Jeff Booth one I'm putting last because I want you to listen to it and probably play it a couple of times. It'll help you think things through. But hope you're stacking. Good luck out there. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you next week. Hit the like button, send this to a friend, and thanks again. See you soon. Bye.
So for the next 3 days, we're going to be hearing from some of the biggest names in Bitcoin who actually see the recent implosion of FTX as another example that sets Bitcoin apart from the thousands of other altcoin projects, and crucially from these centralized crypto platforms. Because remember, the Bitcoin network focuses on two big things: decentralization and security. And so sentiment is really positive here about the future of the industry because they feel that people around the world are realizing that Bitcoin is more secure than other altcoins, it's more reliable, and it's decentralized, meaning that these centralized actors can't mess with your money. Now, Block CEO Jack Dorsey, Strike CEO Jack Mallers, and Ray Youssef, who runs Paxful, one of the most prominent decentralized crypto exchanges on the continent, will all be speaking this week, as will some of the biggest names in Lightning, which is that layer 2 technology built on top of Bitcoin that's trying to replace existing fiat payment rails by making cash transfers around the world instantaneous, instantly settled, and cheaper. And crucially, we're also hearing from entrepreneurs based in the region who have been leaning into crypto as a way to make life easier.
What about the real-term applications of crypto, Mackenzie? Are the people down there saying that it could actually make things better or easier than fiat cash?
Yeah, so several countries in Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya, to name a few, are these prime examples of places where grassroots, totally organic crypto adoption is happening because it's just better than the existing system. There's a thriving peer-to-peer crypto payment network across the continent using a combination of Bitcoin and US dollar-pegged stablecoins like Tether, We're also talking about Bitcoin as a savings technology because, yes, its price is volatile, but in countries where there's rampant inflation and the local currency has lost most of its value, Bitcoin can become the safer and more accessible option. Now, mining for Bitcoin in some cases is creating a financial incentive to build infrastructure to harness stranded renewable energy and then make that power accessible to communities through microgrids. Another point here, Seema, there's a delegation from Lagos led by Bernard Parra. And what's especially interesting about Nigeria is that the government has outright banned crypto, very hostile to it, yet the market is absolutely thriving. A lot of Nigerians I've spoken with see Bitcoin as a tool in fighting back against an oppressive government. So these are the use cases that people on the ground here are really excited about.
You can't see it today, but it is much more impactful than it will be much more impactful than the internet. In fact, it's rebuilding a new peer-to-peer internet that puts us all as equals, and we create value. And the more value we create, the more prices fall for all of us on that system. And it's an equalizer around nations. And so now you're not, as this expands, it doesn't matter where you're born, to be able to plug into a system that effectively gets its life from enslaving other people. You are plugged into a global network of people contributing ideas that has benefit to you. So it's a lot bigger, but it's early.